going to be honest with you. This is something I advocate. Everybody do. It's also something I advocate you do for your child if you have the ability. Compound interest over time is magic. And when you invest for a child, they have the longest possible time horizon. So you can really do a lot of good in terms of building financial security for a child. Welcome to the Sunlight Tax Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, design nerd, tax pro, author of Taxes for Humans, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative, wellness, or mission-driven entrepreneur who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello. I want to come to you today with a big update about Trump accounts. Now, I realize this title is not most people's favorite. I suggest that you try and let go of the title and think about just the concept and what is behind it. To be totally honest, good people, civic-minded people who love this country and want to help the working class and middle class have been working on this idea for a long time, and I think ultimately sacrificed their own egos and rubbed someone else's ego in order to get a good idea passed in an administration that wanted to put its name on it. So I do recommend trying to scrub the name from your brain if that is helpful to you to listen better and understand the information. But in my opinion, Trump accounts are actually a good thing. The information available about them is still a little bit vague, and so you will find you may still have questions, but I want to give you the information that is available at least today and let you know that as of July 4th, these accounts now are live. It is now, for the first time, something that you can actually access and open if you are eligible, if you have a child who is eligible. So let's talk about what a Trump account is, what it's for, and how you can open one if it is right for you. All right. So what is a Trump account? Trump accounts are something that was outlined in the large tax bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, passed when Trump got into office and the new Republican Congress came into office. So basically, they're custodial accounts for a child to encourage long-term growth, long-term wealth building. I'm going to be honest with you. This is something I advocate. Everybody do. It's also something I advocate you do for your child if you have the ability. It's a kind of a thing. Trump accounts have only existed for a week now, but it's a thing, it's a concept I have talked about even on the Sunlight Tax Podcast, opening a Roth IRA for your child. I'll link to that episode here because it's a wonderful thing to invest money for your child, especially because, one, the habit of long-term wealth building is a healthy habit for anyone. And when you invest for a child, on behalf of a child, the timeline is working for you, right? Compound interest over time is magic. And when you invest for a child, they have the longest possible time horizon. So you can really do a lot of good in terms of building financial security for a child. So that's why it's great. And Trump accounts, for that reason, are a really good thing. Are they the best available account versus other kinds of accounts that are already available? Time will tell. I'm not sure I'm going to say yes on that, but are they good? Are they a tool in the toolbox? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so these are newly available accounts as of July 2026, and you can open one now. I'll get to how to do that in just a minute. But the idea is these are custodial accounts that you open on behalf of a minor, so anybody from age 0 up to age 18. Okay. It has to be a person who has a social security number that is written into the law. In addition, so any minor at all, anyone under age 18 is eligible to have a Trump account opened on their behalf. But there is a special election of bonus money that you can get if that child happens to have been born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028. So that's a small subset of the full group who is eligible for a Trump account. This smaller subset can elect to have $1,000 put into that account as seed money from the U.S. Treasury. This is just free money given to you by the Treasury. Okay, how do you get this? So let's talk about what the limits are for money you can put into a Trump account, and then I'll talk about who can open one. So the limits are you can put up to $5,000 per year into a Trump account for each minor. If you have a minor eligible for that bonus Treasury contribution, that Treasury contribution does not actually count towards this $5,000. So that little group of people could get potentially $6,000 into their account. If you happen to have an employer, or if you are an employer and you are looking to create an incentive program for employee retention, employers are allowed to put an additional $2,500 into a Trump account on behalf of, an employee's child, and that $2,500 can be excluded from taxable income for that employee. Charities and government entities are also allowed to make contributions to large groups of children. There are private individuals, Susan and Michael Dell, for example, who have donated large amounts of money to put into Trump accounts. Ray Dalio, I know, has given a lot of money to go into Trump accounts. There's corporations that have done the same. So, these are acts of generosity, and there is money available potentially for, underprivileged people in the state of Connecticut. It's worth looking if there are any pots of money available to you or your child. Deposits can begin going into these accounts starting after July 4th, 2026. All right. Now, how do these accounts work? I'm going to quote you something I read on State Street Financial because I think it's a pretty good explanation of the vibe of Trump accounts. So this is a quote from State Street. The accounts during the growth period, which is the period prior to the beneficiary turning 18, are limited to investing in mutual funds or ETFs that track to a qualified index with at least 90% U.S. company weighting. For example, the S&P 500. Do not use leverage and have an annual fee expense below 0.1%. Cash and money market funds are not permitted. That's the end of the quote. The spirit of that is that these are accounts that are invested in low-cost index funds without high fees, without fancy financial instruments, okay? So you do not have flexibility about where this is invested. But in general, a lot of people do invest in S&P 500 index funds. Like, this is actually a pretty well-regarded, well-respected way to invest. It does actually take the decision-making away from you, but I honestly think this is a perfectly great way to invest. So the spirit of this ruling is that this is about long-term investing. This is not about fancy financial instruments. This is not about short-term gains. This is about money compounding on a long-term timeline, okay? Which is honestly the most secure and stable way to build wealth. Initially, this money will be held with the U.S. Treasury, and the money can then be rolled over to your preferred financial institution. I will be honest with you, the details on this little detail are pretty vague. So there's not much info beyond what I've told you here, but stay tuned. There is a website, trumpaccounts.gov, that you can check back for more info. I will tell you, I just read through the trumpaccounts.gov website. I had read through it about 6 months ago. Not a lot has changed in those 6 months. It was a little thin then, and it remains a little thin now. Okay, so how do you elect? How do you open a Trump account? Well, you can use IRS Form 4547, or you can elect to open the account on a tax return. Okay. There is an additional box that you can check on your tax return if your child is eligible because they were born between 2025 and 2028. You can elect to have that bonus $1,000 from the U.S. Treasury. So you can open the account and elect that bonus money all in the same tax return. This might be something you want to note for your taxes in the next tax return you file. If you filed on extension this year, if October 15th is your extension due deadline, you can actually do it on your 2025 tax return. I did actually mention that in my kind of tax updates for the 2025 tax season this year. So hopefully some of you managed to open up a Trump account if you have kids or if you had a baby this year. But I'm just reiterating that remains true. So if you haven't filed your 2025 taxes yet, you can open the account and make that bonus money election on your 2025 tax return. No worries, though. You can also do it on your 2026 tax return next year. So just maybe put a note in your tax files to make this election if you've got a kiddo. Another piece of information that is a little vague is that once you establish the account, elect to establish this account, the U.S. Treasury will send you further instructions. In my whole life before Trump came into office, I have never seen such vague tax law, but here we are. Wait for the Treasury to send you further instructions is what it says. The trumpaccounts.gov website does not say much more than that. It says it could be a text, it could be an email, it could be a letter. All of that is a little vague for my taste, but there you go. That's how it works. All right, how can your child use this money? So remember, this is not your money. This is a custodial account for a minor, for your kid. So the child can use that money. It is fully accessible to them once they turn 18. They are not allowed to touch it before age 18. It has to be in there and be growing. Once they withdraw the money, it will be taxed. It basically turns into effectively the same rules as a traditional IRA, except that you can access the money at age 18 for qualified purposes, and those include qualified higher education expenses, but also a first-time home purchase or for disability. So it's not only good for kids who are planning to go to college, it could also help them buy their first home or if they have a disability. So it's a little bit broader than just for education, which is what a 529 account is for by comparison. If you use it for something other than the designated purpose of the account, not only will it be subject to ordinary income tax rates, but also a 10% penalty. All right. After age 59 and a half, the child, the beneficiary, can withdraw the money for any reason whatsoever without penalty. But again, they will pay ordinary income tax rates on that money. Okay, so that's what I've got for you today on Trump accounts. They are another way to set aside, to stash money for a child in your life. I forgot to mention to you that also this does not only need to be established by the parent. So you can open one for your child, and that's probably the most obvious use case. But a family member, a guardian, or a friend is allowed to open a Trump account for a kid. So it is actually possible to do this for a friend of yours, right? You know a single mom who you know could use it, but is really, really busy and you just know she'll never get to it. You can, in fact, open a Trump account with her permission on behalf of those kids. So it's kind of cool in that way. There's a lot of flexibility. There's also a lot of moving parts and a little bit that's still vague. But these accounts are now open and available. And especially if you have a kid born very recently in 2025 or 2026, and of course, in the future, if you're maybe pregnant or planning to start a family and are going to have a kid in 2027 or 2028, that's a magical 4-year window where those kids in particular get a bonus $1,000 to be stashed in this account. It's a great additional tool in the toolbox for building your wealth, building the wealth of your child. It is something real and tangible that you can do. And although I personally find the name distasteful, it's still a good concept, and I hope you'll consider it. All right. If this episode has been helpful to you, or if you have a friend who's got a kid, especially if they have had a kid in 2025 or early 2026, or maybe they're pregnant, please send them this episode so that they can open a Trump account and especially get that extra bonus money from the U.S. Treasury. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. It really helps. I'm so grateful. My tax guide, Taxes for Humans, is available wherever you buy books and at sunlighttax.com/book. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links I reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.